Most Christians often think they have a writing problem, a leadership problem, or a time problem. But beneath many of those struggles is a confidence problem. Hi, welcome to another episode of Missionary Moneymaker. While making a dime is making a difference, I'm your podcast host, Carl Wynn. And so today we're going to talk about the real problem is confidence. And so over the last couple of years, I've coached and I've interacting, I've spoken to several Christians, and I've encouraged them to start writing their book, to start their business, to launch out and do this. And most of the time that it's not that the Christians don't have the ability to do it, but they lack confidence. So the real problem when it comes to marketplace success, marketplace productivity is the lack of confidence. And so that's what we're going to talk about in this podcast, is how we can understand that this idea lacking confidence, how it hinders productivity. And remember, the goal of this podcast is to help you as a Christian increase your impact, your income, and influence, helping individuals become more happy, healthy, and holy. In short, my goal is to help you glorify God and live a life of contribution in the marketplace. And so the first lack of confidence that most Christians struggle with is this: they lack the confidence of their calling in the marketplace. Now, if you've listened to this podcast more than one time, you may have heard me say this, is that most Christians think that their calling is in some quote unquote full-time ministry that's traditional, whether that's in the church, whether that's on a traditional mission field, whether that's in some kind of Christian nonprofit. And so what they really, the real problem is they lack confidence in their calling. And I was there before too. I thought that I had to be a pastor, I had to be a missionary, and even though I'm serving in those roles, but what I realize is that I can have the same impact that God is calling us to reach people, to carry out Christ's calling, even if I'm in the marketplace. I don't have to be in the church. I don't have to be in some kind of traditional ministry to make it happen. So if you're listening to this podcast as a Christian and you're struggling with your calling in the marketplace, then I want to tell you, God may have called you to the marketplace. He may have called you to impact the lives of people in your company, with your customers, your team, your vendors, your community, through your business, through your employment. So what I want to do is let you know that you can have confidence in that calling. In fact, Colossians 3:17 tells us, whatever you do, do it heartily as unto the Lord. And so we have to realize this, is that we need to have confidence in our calling in the marketplace. Don't get caught up in comparing to compete, but compare to complete. What I'm saying is this: most Christians in the marketplace compare themselves to other Christians in their calling when it comes to pastors, traditional missionaries, Christian nonprofit leaders. Most people are comparing their calling to them. They're comparing their calling to these individuals. And when that happens, you lack productivity, because if you don't believe God called you to the marketplace, then you cannot show up the way that God wants you to show up, because it's a struggle. And so that's the first thing that Christians lack, is their calling. They lack confidence in their calling in the marketplace. And I want to tell you, the marketplace is a great place to live out your calling as a Christian. Don't let the music die with you. That is something I've been telling Christians for the last year. Many Christians say that they want to write a book. Well, that is my goal, is not to let the music die with you. Because guess what? Once you die, the value that you have, it can't come back out. And writing a book is a great way to increase your impact, your income, and influence. And my goal is to help 10,000 Christians in 2026 write and publish a book. So if that's you, I want you to download this free worksheet. It's called 5 Ways to Finding Your Unique Book Idea. And I want to help you write your book. Remember, don't let the music die with you. Go ahead and start singing it loud and proud right now. And remember, this is not about pride, but it's about productivity. So number 2, most Christians lack confidence in contribution. What that means is they lack confidence in their ability to contribute. So over the last year, I've sat down with Christians to help them think about how they can increase their impact, their income, and their influence in the marketplace. And many times I'm talking to a Christian who have many years of experience in various industries. And I'm like, wow, you have some great experience. You got a great education. You got great expertise. You've been in so many different environments, but they still lack confidence in their ability to contribute. And as you know, I've shared with you on the podcast is that we need to understand this, is that our ability to contribute is what God called us to do. Right. We were made to live a life of contribution. But when you don't understand how you can contribute and you don't trust your abilities to serve other people, then you cannot contribute at a high level. Right. So think about this in the marketplace. Think about this in your company. You don't hire somebody if they lack confidence in their ability to contribute to your company. Right. Or you don't get a job if you don't show that you're competent enough to carry out your work. So you need to understand that you need to have confidence in your ability to contribute. Because if you don't, you cannot show up properly. You're not going to get hired. Your customers are not going to hire you. Your employer is not going to hire you if you don't have confidence in your ability to carry out the job. Now, most Christians struggle with the idea of, I would say, conceit versus confidence. And conceit is that you have a high view of yourself where you think that you're all that. And as people say, a bag of chips, right? You have this puffed up view about yourself, right? That's conceit. But contribution is different. You can have a high view of your ability to contribute without conceit, because you understand how you can show up. You understand how God has designed you and equipped you to show up. And the way that I coach people, and even as I go out and contribute, I like to look at my uniqueness. How have God made me unique? So I began to look at my uniqueness, which is a combination of these 5 things. One is my experiences. How does my experience make me unique? Number 2, how does my education make me unique? Number 3, how does my expertise make me unique? Number 4, how does the environments that I've been in make me unique? And then last, how does my ethnicity make me unique? My culture, where do I come from? These 5 things make you unique. And so, but these 5 things also prepare you so that you can live a life of contribution. So you can have confidence in your ability to contribute. So you need to know who you are. You need to have confidence in who you are so that you can contribute at a high level. So it's productivity over pride. But because most people, again, most Christians struggle with this. I'm struggling with pride. I'm struggling with pride because I'm thinking too much of myself and I'm focused so much on myself. But you can actually have a high view of yourself without pride, meaning this, that you can look at and say, this is how God designed me. I know what I can bring to the table. And guess what? I want to bring it to the table. I'm good at this, and I want to contribute. And so as a Christian, you need to make sure that you have confidence in your ability to contribute. So that's the second thing Christians lack confidence in their ability to contribute. And then the third thing is this. Most Christians lack confidence in compensation. And remember, I'm focusing on Christians in the marketplace. They lack confidence in their compensation, meaning they don't feel like they are worth what they're charging or what they're getting paid. And so they lack this. And so if you're struggling with this confidence in your compensation, I want you to think about this. Money is a measurement of the value you create for others. Let me say that again. Money is a measurement of the value you create for others. So you need to focus on this. You need to focus on understanding that your money is a measurement of how much value you create for other people. So instead of lacking confidence in your compensation, what you need to do is focus on and measure, what value am I creating for other people, my clients, my team, my vendors, and my community, and you charge based on that, and you receive that compensation based on that. Because remember, money is a measurement of that. How much value are you creating for other people? And so if you're lacking confidence in your compensation, begin to think about, who am I serving? How am I creating value for other people? Remember, your clients, your team, your vendors, your community. How are you impacting their lives? And that should give you a measurement of your compensation. So for me, when I'm charging for my services, I'm not looking down and like, woe is me. This is too much. What I do is I think about, how am I creating value for this? How am I preparing this person how am I helping this other person increase their quality of life and standard of living, right? Think about doctors. We don't complain about how much doctors make. They're saving lives, right? And so if you're a doctor, you can charge these high prices, but this is what I'm saying is that when you look at money, don't look at it from a standpoint that this is a high price. I want you to look at it from a value add standpoint and ask yourself, how much value am I creating for other people? That is the real, that's the real way that you want to look at it. And so as I wrap up this podcast, I want you as a Christian to have confidence. I want you to have confidence in your calling, knowing that God has placed you in the marketplace for a reason. You don't need to go to some other mission field to glorify God. And secondly, I want you to have confidence in your ability to contribute. Get this. I want you to know yourself so that you can know how you can come to the table with the value that God has entrusted to you. Mission and money were never meant to be separated. Every Christian in the marketplace is a missionary, called to create value, solve problems, and steward influence for the glory of God. This podcast is a discipleship movement, a marketplace masterclass, and a prophetic reframe of how we think about work, wealth, and calling. Here, we equip entrepreneurs, professionals, and leaders to increase their impact, income, and influence without guilt, without comparison, just calling. If you're ready to leverage your past, walk in obedience, and build with purpose, you're in the right place. Let's go to work. And the last thing is, I want you to have confidence in your compensation. You don't need to put your head down. You don't need to put a smaller amount on your invoice. You need to understand that your money is a measurement of the value you create for other people. So as I close this podcast, I want to encourage you, go out and create the most value you can for other people. Go out and live into their calling. Go out and make live a life of contribution. Go out and receive that compensation because of the value you created for other people. And so that's what I want to share with you today, is that go out and make a difference. Because remember, making a dime is making a difference. So if you like this podcast, go ahead and like, subscribe, and definitely share. And our goal here is to build a community of believers who are making an impact in the marketplace without comparison, just calling, just contribution. So let's make it happen. God bless you, and I'll see you in the next episode. Missionary Moneymaker, where making a dime is making a difference. This is a discipleship movement, a marketplace masterclass, and a bold reframe of mission and money, helping Christians increase impact, income, and influence without guilt, without comparison, just calling.